Have you ever met someone and it felt like a fairy tale? Like almost too good to be true? The affection is so intense, so immediate, you feel like you've been totally swept off your feet. Well, today we're going to talk about what happens when that fairy tale starts to feel a little off, when all that affection starts to feel less like love and more like a tool for control. Let's really get into what's happening when a dream romance begins to feel more like a trap. And this just nails it, doesn't it? It's that feeling of being completely seen and adored. Every word they say makes you feel special, understood, like you finally found the one. But as we're about to see, that incredible high is often just the setup for something way more complicated and honestly pretty painful. So, it all starts in what we can call the whirlwind romance phase. This is that intoxicating first stage where everything feels absolutely perfect. You know, like it's straight out of a movie. I mean, think about it. This is the stuff we're told romance is made of, right? Being called a soulmate right away, the big, grand gestures, the nonstop contact, it's all designed to be intoxicating. They might be talking about your future together within weeks, and it creates this intense, immediate bond that feels so real and just incredibly fast. But then, after that initial high, this little feeling of unease can start to creep in, you know? The gestures that felt so sweet at first start to feel, well, a little overwhelming. And that constant communication can begin to feel less like connection and more like surveillance. This is the real turning point, where the dream starts to show its cracks. So you have to ask yourself, all of this intense affection, this whirlwind of emotion, is it really genuine love, or could it be something else entirely? And here it is. Here is the absolute core of the issue. Love bombing isn't really about connection. It's about control. It's a tactic, whether the person knows they're doing it or not, to overwhelm you, break down your natural defenses, and make you emotionally dependent on them. Spotting the difference between real enthusiasm and manipulation is just so crucial, and these red flags are your guide. That constant need to be in touch, it's often less about being close and more about making sure you're dependent on them. Pushing to move too fast is about locking you in before you have a chance to see the warning signs. And a huge one to watch for is isolation. They might subtly start discouraging you from seeing friends, wanting all of your attention for themselves. Researchers have actually identified this really predictable three-stage cycle. First up is idealization. That's the whirlwind romance we were just talking about. But once you're hooked, the devaluation stage starts. Suddenly, the compliments might turn to criticism, and that affection becomes a weapon they can take away to punish you. And finally, there's the discard stage, where they might just end the relationship out of nowhere, leaving you completely confused and feeling worthless. And the worst part, the cycle can just repeat itself to pull you back in. So why do people do this? Well, the motivation is rarely about genuine love. It's almost always about something deeper going on inside the person who's doing the love bombing. The number one driver, by a long shot, is a deep need for control. This is often tied to narcissistic traits, where a person needs constant admiration to basically feed their own ego. But, it can also come from a place of deep insecurity or an anxious attachment style. They're overwhelming you with affection because they are terrified you're going to leave them. And it's also really important to get this. While the behavior is definitely manipulative, the intent isn't always consciously malicious. The person might not be sitting there thinking, I'm going to manipulate this person. They could just be repeating toxic patterns they've learned, actually believing this is what love is supposed to look like, which of course makes it even harder to spot. So, this is the big question, right? How do you actually tell the difference? How can you protect your heart and figure out if it's genuine affection or a strategy of control? Let's break it down. Okay, this chart is basically the ultimate litmus test. The fundamental difference here is all about intention. Is the affection seeking to control you, or is it trying to connect with you? Does it cut you off from your world, or does it fit into your existing life? Real love respects your time and your boundaries. It feels safe and steady, not like you're on a crazy emotional roller coaster. This quote just sums it up perfectly. The key words here you really need to focus on are mutual and comfortable. Is the pace comfortable for both of you? See, healthy relationships are a partnership, not a one-person show. They grow over time. They don't just explode into being overnight. All right, so if you're listening to this and you think, this sounds familiar, what can you do? This last part is all about actionable steps you can take to protect yourself and get your balance back. The first and honestly most powerful step is just to recognize what's happening. From there, you can consciously slow things down, maybe suggest spending a little time apart, set really clear boundaries about communication or how fast things are going. And absolutely, do not lose contact with your friends and family. They are your anchor to reality. And this might be the most crucial test of all. Remember, a boundary isn't a wall, it's just a way to protect your emotional space. And how someone reacts when you set one, that's going to tell you everything you need to know about their true intentions. Look at the difference. A healthy partner will respect your needs, even if they're a little disappointed. They'll make you feel heard. But an unhealthy or manipulative partner is going to push back. They'll get angry, they'll try to make you feel guilty, or they'll flip it around on you with things like, if you really cared about me, you would. That reaction is a massive, massive red flag. Now, for anyone who's been harmed by this cycle, experts are really clear the best path to healing is to cut off contact. This is so important to break that idealization devaluation cycle. Reconnecting with your support system and just rediscovering the hobbies and interests that kind of fell away, that is key to rebuilding your independence and your sense of self. So in the end, it really all comes down to this one question. Real love should feel safe. It should feel steady and supportive. It builds you up. It doesn't try to control you. It's about a partnership, not a possession. And that's a distinction that is absolutely worth remembering.